Thank you and welcome to our regular school board meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 5:18. And please know that it's also being videotaped and live streamed on social media, Zoom in particular. All right, and we have roll call.
Now is this working?
VP, yes.
Okay. President Sorensen-Taj?
Present.
Trustee Yu?
Present.
Trustee Katz? Present. And I'm Trustee Nakatani, and I'm here.
All right, thank you. And now we are going to have public comment on closed session agenda items. As you know, we will be going into closed session and we can only take comments on closed session items at this time. And I have currently 4 folks who would like to speak. Is there anybody else at this time that it might be on Zoom? Okay. Without further ado, please know you'll have 3 minutes per comment. Could you please identify who you are, what school or affiliation you're from, and we welcome you now. Let's first start with Christian Elder. All right. So you're each going to, so we've got Christian Elder 3 minutes and Catherine Elder 3 minutes. Would that be correct? Okay.
Her entire life. And that is why we're here today advocating for our family in front of you, a board of strong women and mothers. I can surmise from each of your commitments to serving on our school board that you care deeply about your children as well as children who are not yours. And we would like to formally request during your closed session meeting to help our family out, particularly for this first little bit. And so Catherine will now be giving more context for her request.
Hi, I'm Catherine. Today in closed session, you will review a letter that contains a request for you to consider granting me full-time benefits while I work in a part-time role for just this school year due to childbearing. This letter may look familiar, as the first time you saw it was on December 5th, 2022, when I began formally planning for this absence. Keeping in mind that circumstances that involve children are almost always unpredictable, I began working with our HR department over 9 months ago because I know that being a teacher is unlike many professions and it's quite difficult to step away to have a baby. I do not take lightly the importance of my role in the classroom and the lives of the 4-year-olds I service daily. For example, while 39 weeks pregnant, I strapped on my hiking shoes, brought my mom as my personal chaperone in case I went into labor, and took 22 TCARES to Slide Ranch for a field trip where my students may have drawn one too many connections between a very pregnant me and the goats we were milking. When we were looking for someone to fill the part-time role my leave created, we needed to make the job more enticing by offering more FTE, and I was flexible and willing to work the 2 days instead of 3. In the late July days where that change occurred, I applied, was admitted to, and enrolled in a master's degree program. I'm currently 3 weeks into that program and know that what I'm learning will make me a better teacher for my students today, especially as I spend extra time on campus outside of my paid days this year to learn from local administrators. I also know that this year will be mentally and fiscally difficult as I pay my way through school, support a baby, work, and take on the added cost of healthcare. While I do not personally know each of your stories, nor how and if your maternity leave sustained you, I would like to ask each of you to reflect for a moment on the beginning of your motherhood journey. Were you supported fiscally, with time, or emotionally by your employer? How could your family have benefited from actions your employer did or did not take? And was any of it enough? My hope is that each of you got what you needed and that your employers valued your newfound roles as mothers. My hope is also that if that was not the case, you will still consider being a part of supporting a new generation of mothers. As you deliberate tonight, I understand that you've been asked to look at this in the form of a policy that will affect all MBTA members. However, I urge you to consider this item as the individual case that it is. This is not just a policy, but a personal and rare request that will have significant impact on my family, a future Mill Valley School District family's future. Using last year's insurance premium information, I was able to calculate that the cost to make up the insurance no longer covered by the district when I'm serving in a .4 role will be over 50% of my gross pay. The impacts on healthcare coverage for someone like me in column 1 of the salary schedule are significant, as healthcare costs are independent of salary, and there's no option to only pay for a portion of healthcare. I'm able to serve as a TK teacher in our district because of extra schooling that I've gone through, yet that's not recognized in my pay on the salary schedule. So while I have additional units, I'm still in column 1. Please consider helping lessen the burden. Your actions will go a long way in allowing me to support the families in Mill Valley, of which I am one. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is working. Okay. Hi, I'm Julie Bremer. This is Erin Fraser. We are co-presidents of the MVTA. It's our understanding tonight that you're going to be discussing an article of the certificated bargaining agreement. And before you go into deliberation tonight, we wanted to give you a little background on the article. Article 21.2.2 gives the board the ability to temporarily grant full-time benefits to certificated employees who have worked as full-time employees and transitioned to part-time employment for a specific reason, such as personal or family medical reasons or raising their young children for up to 2 years. This article has existed in the agreement since before 2006. Our district has always been very family-friendly and supportive of teachers who are parents. In addition, we're fortunate that our healthy budget reserves have continued to allow previous administrations and boards to make decisions that prioritize our staff as the heart of the district. This language demonstrates those shared values. Please remember that this article has limited scope. When deciding if you believe in providing full healthcare benefits for individuals who are working part-time while dealing with personal or family illness or raising children, you're only considering doing so for up to 2 years of their career. The financial impact of saying yes to a member's request would be minimal. Without this article, certificated staff who transition from full to part-time for those reasons would receive a reduction in their healthcare coverage based on their FTE. When employees work part-time, the benefits provided by the school district would otherwise be reduced to a percentage of the full benefit coverage provided by the school district. For example, if someone on staff works 0.5 FTE, they would just receive 50% of the benefit contribution allotted in a contract. This reduction in healthcare coverage when transitioning to part-time work after having a baby or when dealing with personal or family illness has a huge impact on the individual's employee finances. In some cases, this can put staff members in a position to make an impossible choice between reducing their FTE in order to have the necessary time to care for themselves or their family and having enough money to pay for essential medical coverage.
In America, as you know, we do not have universal health care and have been conditioned to believe that health care is not a right, but rather something that individuals must work to earn. In the Mill Valley School District, we are fortunate to have the healthy finances that enable us to think outside of the box that we live in the United States that disadvantages so many. Tonight, you have the ability to make a decision that shows where your values lie, to show that you believe that parents deserve the right to work part-time while their children are young, while still receiving the basic necessity of health care coverage from their employer. We implore you, as Catherine did, to think back to when you first became mothers. Did you take time off beyond your FMLA leave to spend more time with your children and support their growth? If not, did you return simply for financial reasons? Do you wish it had been different? Your decision tonight can make a difference for the teachers in Mill Valley who may otherwise be forced to choose between their bottom line and precious time with their young children, which they will not get back. This article also provides the ability for the board to grant these benefits while an employee or someone in their family is fighting or healing from an illness. Imagine one of your Mill Valley teachers receiving a cancer diagnosis and needing to reduce their workload as they go through treatment. Should they also be burdened with additional monthly healthcare costs? Can you imagine how that financial stress could negatively impact their recovery or even their chance of survival? Article 21.2.2 is an opportunity for you, our governing board, to reinforce the shared values that we hold in the Mill Valley School District. It goes hand in hand with our well-established practice of granting job share opportunities to young parents who need to work part-time in order to have the time to care for their families. It shows that we know that education is a people business, and that to be successful in educating our community's children, we must care for the people doing the work. We are fortunate in Mill Valley that we have a healthy annual budget and padded reserves so that we can use the money that would otherwise sit in the bank to make a real-time difference in the lives of the people who are at the heart of our school district. Picking up the difference in a small group of individuals' healthcare coverage for a very limited time would only represent a drop in the bucket for our school district's budget. Alternatively, paying that much more out of pocket could have a devastating impact on a young family or an individual who is fighting their own personal healthcare battle. Your decision tonight will have a huge impact on these individuals and their families' lives. We are hopeful that your decision will reflect the values of the Mill Valley School District, that we take care of our own when they are in need, and that we are pro-parent and pro-family. We are counting on you to make a difference for these members. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. And that now concludes our public comment on this closed session and closed session items. And I'll now adjourn this meeting to closed session at 5:29 p.m. and we'll see you soon. Well, good evening and welcome. Thank you for your patience as we came out of closed session. And I am Dr. Michelle Cernsich Hodge, your school board president, and I'll be opening this meeting tonight at 6:14 p.m. Please know also that it's available for you online, and we have people who are also, I'm hoping, watching at home, and it's available via YouTube by next Wednesday. All right. So why don't we start by having Vice President Nakatani call roll call?
Trustee Cernsich Hodge,
Present.
trustee Abdoli. Present. Trustee Yu. Present. Trustee Katz. Present. And I'm trustee Nakatani and I'm here.
All right. In our next agenda item, as you see, if we have any reportable action from closed session, this is the time in which we report out. I'd like to report out on two items. Item B1A, in closed session, the board directed the superintendent to maintain the current benefit status for a certificated employee who requested board consideration of benefits in Article 21 of the Certificated Collective Bargaining Agreement. Also in item B1B, pursuant to California Government Code 54957.1, the board has approved settlement by unanimous vote in the case of student and the Mill Valley School District. The terms include $36,275 in reimbursement for educational and legal expenses. Item B1C, there was no reportable action. All right. At this time, I'd like to have a motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a second? So, Nakatani, second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, so the agenda is approved. Next, we'll go to our governance norms and inspiration, which is something we do at every meeting. And I'm going to turn the mic over to Trustee Abdoli.
Thank you. So on our governance team norms, you'll see on our agenda, we have a whole list of them. Come closer to this. And one of the things that's always interesting about any public board is it's in a lot of ways a bunch of random people who got put together and have to learn to work together. And one of the things that I am so appreciative is how committed all of my fellow board members are to really collaboratively finding alignment and committed to becoming the best governing board that we can be. The amount of extra hours everyone has put in beyond just our board meetings here, but just trying to improve our skills and be better at our service toward this district is really inspiring. And I appreciate my fellow board members for that time and for all of the interest and effort in collaborating and really striving and keeping our goal of doing what's best for our district and our students. So it's a thank you, inspirational thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, that puts me in a great mood. And there is maybe one thing that might top it off a little is the next agenda item. So we are recognizing Strawberry Point students tonight. They have participated in trying to help save the planet. And as a result, have received a certificated platinum zero waste award. I'm very excited to hear more. And I'd love to have Principal Kimberly Russell come up. She's going to present this item to us. Thank you, Principal Russell. You probably need to push the button here at the bottom. Yeah.
And also all our members from our green team and Mr. Gasparini and Ms. Monty.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Carver. I'm a project coordinator for Strategic Energy Innovations, and I'm really excited to be here with you all tonight. Which has been running since about 2015. I had the honor of starting with Strawberry Point School in the Zero Waste program in 2017 and have seen them accomplish amazing things since then. And in our Zero Waste program, we have 4 tiers of certification: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And in the time that the program has been running since 2015, we've never had a school be certified as platinum before. It is quite difficult to reach. So I am commending Strawberry Point School on having the honor of being the very first platinum certified school in our program. So hats off to them for the amazing climate and environmental action that they're taking at their school.
How about a round of applause? Woo! And I think Sid would like to take one more photo because this is really an extraordinary group of people. Thank you. And I do believe, Principal Russell, you have some certificates for our amazing role models here. Thank you, students and parents and staff. You're an inspiration, as we know that every step matters. So thank you very, very much. All right. We hope that you will stay with us as we have a robust program, but we understand if you need to get home and get ready for tomorrow, that we understand how that works. All right. Next, we have our very important Mill Valley School District Service Awards. So Superintendent Kaufman, I understand that we had done this in the past and we're starting, bringing back a tradition. And I have a list of people who may or may not be here, but I'm so glad that you are here for coming this evening. And we want to honor and recognize the years of service that our stunning teachers have provided. And little fun fact, we have 510 years represented in the names of people that I'm going to share with you tonight. And we have such gratitude for all who are attending in person and also, I'm sure, virtually. So what I'll do is I'm going to read the names, the years of service, starting with 10 years of service and ending with 25. So we'll be going 10, 15, 20, and 25. When I call your name, please stand and remain standing. And we will have certificates for you at the end, photos, and we're going to break for some delectable delights over there, as you can see, and some refreshments to go with them. So I've been asked if you would please hold your applause till we finish all recognitions. Okay, so 10 years. Let's start with Nicole Barella. If you're here, please stand. James Cleland, I know you're here. Stacy Gibson, Erica Jensen, Sarah Lowenstein, Catherine McLaughlin, Lulu Monty, Fabian Sanchez, John C., Nicole Thibault, Alexandra Vargas, and Bethany Womack. All right. Woo-hoo. Okay, next we have, we want everybody to stay standing. So if you're 10 years, I guess you get to enjoy that earthing. You know, there's an earthing thing that we're supposed to be doing where you keep your feet grounded on the planet. Yeah, there you go. And it brings those vibrations up. All right, 15 years. We have Catherine Cohen, Katie Fisher, Suzanne Gutschmidt, Catherine Hale, Anna Harris, Karen Engel, Patricia Manwaring, May Newpower, Anne Marie Padilla, Heather Sappington, Dina Shapiro, Angela Son, and Kate Sprague. All right. Yeah. 20 years of service. We have Carlos Ramirez Alvalos, Mary Scrivener, Benjamin Ween, and Barbara Velasquez. Yay. Fantastic. And 25 years of service. Darby Doyle, Erica Eagle, Tricia Garlock, Jay Schulman, and Lynn Wattenpaw. Fantastic. Wow. Spectacular. Thank you so much for your service. You know, we know that it's a labor of love, and there's lots of love in this room right now. I'm so glad to see students here. Let's make sure to give hugs and appreciations in person too. So now, without further ado, how do I recess? Do I have to hit the gavel? What do I do? This is a first for me. We're taking a break. I love that. Let's just take a break.
However,
Oh.
we would like to get a photo. So given the group, I think we'll just line up sort of back by the world map, if that's okay. And we will join you for a photo opportunity and then cookies. And then we'll come back and do our meeting.
Okay, sounds great. Let us go. Thank you.
Okay, no.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please. It seems like it's on. It's not on.
We will,
Our
Anna?
mics are not on.
Anna.
We need them back,
The
on,
mic.
please. Are we good? Testing. All right. Thank you. Please continue to enjoy yourself, but your board will need to reconvene and continue with our board agenda items. Next on our agenda is a Marin County School Board Association item. And we have a Superintendent, Dr. Kaufman, who will introduce our guest this evening, who will present this item. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We have Emily Yulhorn, who I believe is familiar to our district, very familiar, and she's going to share about some work that the Marin Schools County School Boards Association would like us to engage in.
Thank you. Appreciate you all taking the time and letting me be here today. I'm Emily Yulhorn of the TAM District Board. I'm also the Vice President of MCSBA. So through that work, I get to be here today. You can go ahead to the next slide. So I'm mostly going to touch on the last two bullets here. You all have good representation at the current subcommittees that exist countywide, so I don't think we need to talk too much about that. We will talk about, kind of how I came to be sitting here today, what was the process to get here, and then at the end, we will ask you at home to fill out a survey. And so hopefully you have all seen it, so you have a little bit of context for kind of what you're going to be asked to do after tonight. You can go ahead. So I was at E2 and JLAC, and you had people at both of them today. So we don't need to talk about it, except to say that these are a couple of ways, for the public to know that our trustees and our superintendents come together on a regular basis to talk about both ways to work together and increase efficiency and effectiveness through E2. And then JLAC, which is really all about legislation, and then our lobbying efforts to make sure that our kiddos in Marin are, being thought about as decisions are being made at the state level. And then, of course, the Golden Bell, which is, all about celebration. You can go ahead to the next one. So the meat of what I'm here to talk about today has been about a 16-month process at this point to get here. It started in June, not this last June, but the June before, where Mary Jane Burke really tried to set the context for all of the superintendents and school board trustees who were at our spring MCSBA meeting about really broadening the way that we think about our jobs to include all students in Marin County, so that we're thinking beyond, the walls of our schools in Mill Valley, right? And we're really thinking, how do we, better outcomes for all students across Marin? How can we work together to think about that? So that was really the frame, right? Really just a very student-centered frame and thinking about, moving beyond our own districts. At that meeting, it was a kind of a whiteboard kind of meeting where people got to brainstorm and, think about what would they want to go deeper on. People were asked if they were interested in continuing the work, and that became the Next Steps Committee. And so that was what sort of this was all born out of, was then continuing to kind of distill down people's ideas, bring it back to MCSBA, bring it to E2, bring it to the superintendents, having an ongoing conversation with MCOE to really make sure that we were kind of refining and distilling down to kind of the most salient points that, the most people were interested in moving forward on. And so that is the survey that you will get today. And, this is really just here to share that it has been a real iterative process. There have been, 3 opportunities for sort of countywide people to give input. There has been committees. We've taken it to the superintendent's meeting, gotten feedback from all the superintendents. We've been to E2, gotten feedback from E2. So although I'm the one sitting here today, it is the fruit of a labor of a lot of people. And I will do a special shout out to Ken Lippy and Michelle Drake up at MCOE, because they really have been the backbone to this work, kind of driving it forward up till now. All right, you can go ahead. So these were 5 sort of general priorities that were shared. And when we ultimately decided what to focus on, it was number 2, and all about how to expand meaningful collaboration and consolidation with sharing of services. So I want to be careful here, given that consolidation is in here. And, just make a note that we're not talking about consolidating districts. We are talking about, are there intersections between our districts where we can come together and potentially consolidate some services, potentially collaborate. But we are really not talking about consolidating districts. And I think you all, either having been involved in a bond or a parcel tax, or as a community member, have heard the comments about, why do we have 17 districts? Right? That is a question that comes up often. And that question is usually framed around money, that it seems like a waste of money to have 17 districts. And we are not coming at this from a money angle, though of course it would be fabulous to save money, right? What district wouldn't want to? But we're really coming at it from a student-focused angle. So are there places where districts can come together to collaborate that will improve the experience and the outcome for our students? And whether that is, sort of direct impact on them, or whether it's sharing professional development, so it might be impacting students through our great teachers. There are lots of ways that we can think about improving outcomes for kids when we come together, where money isn't necessarily the number 1 lens we're looking at. So just wanted to set that frame. And you can go ahead to the next one. So when you do the survey, we're asking you to pick up to 10 items that you might be interested in. If you've had a chance to look at the survey, the items vary, right? Some are, sort of much smaller in focus. One, for example, it, wouldn't pertain to this district. It's more about small districts potentially sharing CBO services. There are other ones that might pertain to every district across the county, like sharing in professional development. So we're looking to get sort of the overall picture, but then also much more small detailed pictures where there might be places that, 15 out of 17 districts have interest in, but there may also be things that come out of 2 smaller districts saying, oh, we really have this hole here and we can match those districts through this survey. So we have found so far, having presented to the really, really big districts and also the really tiny districts, that there seems to be something for everyone here. Sometimes our smaller districts have economies of scale issues and might be interested in collaborating from that perspective. Whereas some of our larger districts have, less per pupil funding. So it may be more of a financial spot that they would want to look at collaborating. But what we're asking of you is to take, any points of interest and include that. And then there also is a section, if there are any other ideas you have. So if you have something that you've really thought, I really think that it would be great if districts were working together on this, please write it in because we will be looking at all of that. Our next steps will be, I don't know, is there another? I think there's one more. Next steps, maybe? So your next step will be filling out the survey. After that, we'll be analyzing the data. And as I said, we will be looking at the both, right? Sort of the metadata, and that will inform really the work that we will focus on moving forward as a committee and hopefully with the help of E2. But then we will also be looking at the, much more particular data that might only pertain to 2 or 3 or maybe 4 districts and sharing that as well. So, please fill it out as thoroughly with, as much additional information as you would like. If you're interested in analyzing the data or being a part of next steps, there's a spot for that too. And then we will do some internal planning. And then the goal is to get this all back to everyone at what should be, I think, the January MCSBA meeting, sort of in public, but then also obviously, the details back individually. So that is it. Happy to answer questions.
At this time, have a board member with questions. Trustee, you.
Are there any services that we currently share? Because, I don't have much visibility of what is shared and what is not shared.
So there are some things that are shared at MCOE, like payroll, for example, that MCOE, coordinates and controls. A lot of professional development happens up there. There's a lot of special ed collaboration, transportation collaboration. Then there are individual ways that districts collaborate. So like I know there was a behavioralist that was shared with Larkspur, Corte Madera. So there, we do both, I would say, in Mill Valley, where there's the sharing, that's sort of the big sharing that MCOE really ties together. And then there's also the smaller sharing that might be district to district. And another great place to find that information is the E2 website has a heat map that shows all of the ways, not that individual districts are collaborating, but that districts across the county are collaborating. And I think that you are not alone in not knowing the answer to that question. So that is a great resource for people to look at.
I have a question for Superintendent Kaufman. If we have internally any information that you have seen relevant to answering Trustee Yu's question, because I think I heard some general, but I'm wondering if we have specific information we could share at a later date.
We do not, other than what was already mentioned. There's some discussion around things like lunch services and things, but in general, it's all the items that were already mentioned. Okay.
Thank you.
Which is, again, like the behavioralist, I think is a really great example of where there might be 2 districts who don't know, that they both are looking for a part-time so-and-so. And that is sort of keeping a consolidated list of districts who are looking for part-time positions is something that is in the survey, as a particular example. I would also just note that, our the CBOs collaborate, so not necessarily sharing resources, but all collaborate, constantly. And then, of course, the superintendents do. But this is really particularly trying to go beyond sort of that brain trust collaboration to maybe more actual shared services and, potentially consolidating some resources. I will just make one more note also about as our districts are shrinking, I think that is another place where we have heard from trustees and superintendents, right? Like if you want to keep, I'll pick a language that we're not teaching. We want to continue to offer Mandarin, but we no longer have, the FTE for a full FTE. So can we combine with another district, right? So I think that districts across the county are seeing that we may no longer have full-time positions for some of the jobs that we have always had and programs that we really value. And, we know almost all of our districts are shrinking across the county. So, that's another potential place to think about collaboration.
Any other questions from trustees? I just have one last question. Has there been any conversation around surveying the people closest to our students, since this is a student-focused effort, which would be our teachers, our principals, and I know that they cross-collaborate, they meet with other, district colleagues and harvesting some of their ideas. Can you speak to whether that is in part of the plan, or
I think that would be a next step if what comes out of this are things that would be impacting teachers. So say professional development, countywide professional development came out of it, then absolutely that would need to be a part of it. If it's talking about, setting up a database for districts looking at part-time positions, then that is probably not a next step. And at this point, we're just trying to look at the big data. What will we be focusing on? So it's hard to say if there will be a desire to have things, to have items focused on that would have a direct impact on our teachers or our
Yes.
staff.
I guess I would just say it might be something to consider for the E2 community to do that bottom up about, surveying work as part of really getting clear on what are the needs for students and getting those multiple stakeholder voices. You might be able to find through lines and then really leverage your work. So that was just a thought I wanted to share with you this
Thank you.
evening. Thank you for
Appreciate it.
coming,
Yeah,
Emily.
absolutely. And
Pleasure.
just to close, the reason we're coming to all the school board meetings is we really are hoping for 100% participation, because as we all know, when we send out surveys, we don't get 100% participation. So I hope while it's fresh in your mind, that you will go home and fill it out. And then we will hope to have all the data collected by the middle of October. It's looking like now we'll be done. So thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, and now we move on to public comment. And as you know, the public has the right to provide comment on items that are not on the agenda. And so at this time, I'm looking to Anna Russell to see if we have any public comment at this time. All right, so if you can provide that before the end of the superintendent's report, then we can make sure to provide time for your public comment on each individual agenda item. All right, next we go to communications to the board, and we'd like to invite CSEA up. Pat Barron, new CSEA president, who will provide an update to the board. And I, have not had the pleasure of meeting Pat, so I'm wondering if Pat's here. Oh, shoot. Okay, well, Pat. Is Pat on Zoom? So maybe let's find out Pat Barron, if you're on Zoom. Okay, well, we will reach out to Pat and we look forward to hearing from CSEA at our next meeting. Next, we have Mill Valley Teachers Association, and we have Erin Frazier and Julie Bremer, co-Mill Valley Teacher Association presidents, who will provide an update to the board from Mill Valley Teacher Association. Welcome, welcome.
We just want to start by thanking the board and the community for the support and bargaining agreement. The Valley students and staff are so fortunate to start the school year with the agreement that even more support. Members, we're excited to have our school on Tuesday with further support, and incredible participation. Our students are so lucky to have these music as well as in particular support and families and that our community members, all of our students, for education. And these two members have been welcome to SAT for those movements. We look forward to working with her and role. There will be another kiddo competition on Friday, and
Classes are all in full swing right now. We're in third, fall, and fifth school. MVT members are overjoyed to be back with their students and to be building strong classroom community. So we will both know, but over the summer, MVTA members spent countless hours in their classrooms getting ready for their students. Over the summer, teachers have valuable time to collaborate on curriculum, prepare and design classroom learning spaces, and participate in professional development. That support that when providing a top-notch education. This June, many Mill Valley teachers engaged in structured literacy training with the Miami events, and teachers and administrators in Mill Valley continue to stay abreast of the needs of research on teaching and learning so that the students of South State here again in October. And maybe we were not
But you were loud and proud, and we heard every word. Thank you. It was very inspiring, and look forward to seeing you in your classrooms all year long. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have the superintendent report. Dr. Kaufman, thank you. Yes, Sid. Yes, all right. Pat, are you available and can speak with us this evening? Would you please raise your hand so that we can let you into the room? Pat Barron? Okay. Please, Pat. Pat, we are not able to hear you. Are you attempting to speak? We are sorry, Pat. Please reach out to us if, in fact, you're attempting to speak to us, and we will get this fixed, as we want to make sure that we can hear anyone from the public who wishes to speak at the appropriate time, including Pat Barron. Okay. Thank you very much. And now, Superintendent Kaufman. Thank you.
Hopefully I can be heard. This is an unusual mic situation for me. I'm not used to having to have it so close. Will it? It doesn't. Okay. Is it picking up with my 4 to 6 inches? All right. I am really, really thrilled to be here. And you'll probably hear this every single time I come, but I am still in absolute awe of this district. And, every time I think I have seen everything, then I see something new and amazing. So I want to share some highlights of our start of the year and some of the context of the work that we are planning to do this year. Next slide, please. So of course, I think, significant for all of us is that coming together in person for learning and growing. And we saw that together with our professional development at the start of the year. Just seeing kids come knowing how to be together as a community already. And then additionally, having the opportunity to have in-person back to school night was just amazing. Next slide. That's us for professional development when I had COVID. Next slide. This is the conversation that we started this year. And I'm sharing this because I want our community to understand what we're here for. So we are here for a lot of things. Our core mission is to be able to answer these 4 questions. What do we want all students to know and be able to do? We need to know how they know. We need to be prepared to respond if they don't know. And we also need to be prepared to respond if they already do know. So really meeting the needs of all learners to the best of our abilities. Next slide. This is the web team with our sixth graders coming back. Next slide. So our what? How are we going to get there? The work in progress that we have. And when I say work in progress, I'm speaking for the next several years, not this year, but this is the work we're trying to build and sustain as a community. So together we're going to build a guaranteed and viable curricula. And MBTA, our team spoke about structured literacy and some of the professional learning we're doing. What we're trying to accomplish with a guaranteed and viable curriculum means that students have access to common instruction, common standards, common resources, irrespective of what school they're in, irrespective of what classroom teacher they have at a given school. And so that's the guaranteed part, that the district has identified essential content and skills necessary for all students to learn in specific courses or specific grade levels, and that we have resources that are aligned district-wide that people can use. There's also the viability component, which means that the curriculum we provide as part of our guarantee is also able to be taught in the amount of time we have. And when we look at the language arts adoption, we will see that there are very intense programs, and they will require a lot of time and really cognitive attention to learn. So again, our promise is we've got to balance these two things as we build our systems moving forward. Next slide. I think that's preschool. Next slide. And then another aspect of our what is really building multi-tiered systems of support. And you'll hear us refer to this as MTSS, but in essence, the green bottom is the guarantee, right? Everybody gets core instruction. It's exactly what they need, so we're answering the questions, what do we want all students to know and be able to do? And we're using assessment tools to answer, how do we know they know? Now, the second two tiers are for the answers to what do we do if they don't know, and what do we do if they already know? And that means we're moving to tiered supports with increased specificity and increased time. So you hear us speak about targeted learning labs. You'll hear us talk about really trying to differentiate for advanced learners. And so those are practices that occur in the general education classroom, but also outside. And then, of course, the third tier is for students who even need more specificity. So as we continue to assess students, we check and see if they're making progress with the work that we're providing them, and the interventions we're providing them, or the accelerations. And if they are not, we intensify the support. Next slide. So why are we doing this? What's our so what? Our commitment as a system is to ensure that every student enrolled in Mill Valley School District makes at least 1 year's progress for 1 year in school. So if you're above grade level, you make a year's progress. Again, the definition of how we measure that is still evolving in the system. And then for students who need more, they get more, because not everybody's going to start at the same starting point. And we need to really create that accelerated learning opportunity for students who are below grade level so that they access that Bill of Rights and that guarantee that we're offering them. Next slide. One of the things that we're really working hard on as a district team, and practices that we sort of started the year with and hope to continue with our labor partners and our staff and community at large, is really working with each other for children. And that's that delicate balance of providing support and guidance and direction from the board, but also making sure that we're engaging the people who do the work and the children who receive our services in determining, again, the viability of the work that we're doing and the offers that we're making for learning. Next slide. One of the commitments that we're trying to make as a system is really using that listening and communication, and trying to broaden a variety of ways of listening to gather feedback, to elevate all voices, student voices, classroom voices, parent voices, our larger community, and trying to be as clear and transparent as we can in the work we're doing. Very important to us is aligning the work of our community partners. So we would not be Mill Valley School District without Kiddo. We would not be Mill Valley School District without the support of the PTA. We obviously would not be Mill Valley School District without this amazing staff we have. So And we want to celebrate those things and make sure that we're aligning and empowering our entire system around that synergy, which really truly does make this place outstanding. And so some of the kind of a next step is really trying to unify around a portrait of a graduate. And, what do we want all students to know and be able to, what does that look like? How do we prepare them for high school? How do we prepare them for the world? And, we've done a lot of great work in that. And we want to continue to make that portrait and our kind of North Star a vibrant place for us to lead and grow. Next slide. And of course, I won't read this because it's too far away for me to read it. But you can read. Thank you to our teachers. So this is, our mission and who we are and what do we want to create as learners. So, this is how we're preparing children with a balanced education to really become responsible, contributing citizens in our global society, which is, as we saw earlier this evening, our students are engaged in their community and leading. Next slide. And again, as always, here's my cell phone number if anyone wants to call or text, and my email number, or my email address. So anyway, thank you. And again, thanks to all of you for making this place so amazing.
Well, thank you, Superintendent Kaufman. And now let me offer board members an opportunity to question or comment. I just want to say, incredible. Yes, thank you. Comprehensive. Love the visuals. I'm a visual learner as well. I'm an auditory and visual learner. You capture both modalities beautifully. Thank you so much. You lead the way in so many ways. And now let's move on to our next exciting agenda item, approval of the consent agenda. But first, do we have any items that a board member would like to remove from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing no interest in that, may I have a motion to approve? A second? All in favor? Aye. Approval. Anyone opposed?
I with my normal caveats.
Normal caveats. Let's make sure that's in the minutes. Thank you, Trustee Abdoli. Yes, Trustee Yu.
So among consent agenda, there was quarterly investment report, and I don't know if anybody's read it, but we're finally getting real interest rates of 4 or 5%.
Thank you, Trustee Yu, for that. Very encouraging. Yes, thank you for highlighting that. That's right. I think we might. Okay. And now on to H, we don't have any items removed from the consent agenda, so we'll move through that. Item 2, facilities. And let us have our team approach. Julio Arroyo, would you please, it looks like you've got some agenda items here to walk us through. Thank you for being here, all of you.
The school bus.
Yes, you do. We're so happy that you're here to brighten our day, educate us, and illuminate our public. So first, we're going to look at Resolution 3/2324, lease agreement skate park. Is that correct?
Yes.
10 minutes. All right. Please take it away. Thank you.
Good evening. Julio Arroyo, Director of Operations, Safety, and Maintenance. And so our first item here is the resolution, the request for the resolution for and lease agreement for the city of Mill Valley for the skate park. And so back in 2018, we worked with the city of Mill Valley to offer the land that the skate park is currently built on, with the idea that if and when we would get to a point where we would start planning for a new middle school, we would look at that skate park as a possibility for additional land that may be needed for temporary housing or the new middle school site. And so as part of the request for today is a 1-year agreement to move forward. And so our communication has been with the city that by May 2024, we would communicate with them if there would need to be any alterations or changes to the skate park due to our planning for the middle school. And so we're here to request approval for the resolution and the agreement.
All right. Thank you very much. Do we have any board comments or questions before as we deliberate? Trustee Nakatani.
No. So typically, I think thank you. Thank you. Can I be heard now? So I think it was prudent of the school district to offer a 1-year lease on this, given the complexities of the project and the unknowns. And I think a little bit of context, I think, is helpful for this recording if anyone comes back and looks at it, because, right now there's no plans to tear down the state park.
No.
And I think it's just the responsible thing to do for the district to have a 1-year lease and go from there. So thank you.
Thank you, trustee Nakatani. Any last comments, concerns, questions? Oh, wait. Okay, so this will require a roll call vote. Trustee Nakatani. But
President,
I'm sorry, I made a mistake because I want to find out if we have public comment. We do not have public comment on this item. My apologies. And now, we need a roll call vote. So motion to approve. A second. Thank you, trustee Yu. And now let's have a roll call vote.
President Surinsati.
Aye.
Trustee Abdoli.
Aye.
Trustee Yu.
Aye.
Trustee Katz. Aye. And I'm trustee Nakatani. I'm an aye.
All right, that passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Julio Arroyo. And now let's go on to Measure G update. And Julio, take this away. No action is required.
Thank you. This is our Measure G update that we're giving to the board every board meeting. And so our first slide here is going to be our slide that we always include in our Measure G update, and that's our overall timeline as we're looking at the Mill Valley Middle School new construction, the temporary housing, as well as the modernization for our elementary school sites. And so we, as you see here, we're in the dotted red lines is here in the September board meeting. And the only change that you're seeing reflected this month is for Tam Valley and Strawberry Point. We did move it back 1 month due to the approval that we requested and received tonight. Thank you. And the consent, through the consent items for the Strawberry Point Architectural and Engineering Services with JKAE. And so that now puts us, we have Tam Valley and Strawberry both now approve our project assignments with our architects. And so we will then start having preliminary discussions with the principals to just let them know what will be forthcoming in their sites and projects. And so nothing else has changed from the last update on these. And so this is just something we're going to continually show to be able to show any changes in our initial preliminary timeline. Next slide, please. And here is an update of just our team members that we brought along, our experts, starting with tonight, the approval of the project assignment for Strawberry Point, that's JK in Architecture and Engineering. So that was approved tonight, and we'll be starting with them along with Tam Valley. They're assigned for Strawberry Point and Tam Valley to get ready for the modernizations of those sites. We have Moran Engineering, and so they've been doing the topographical surveys as well as utility surveys for Tam Valley, Strawberry Point, and Mill Valley Middle School. And so they've done some of the site work that's necessary for that. And so now they're just building out the additional information. So that work will be ongoing as we progress in our middle school planning and others planning for those other sites, as well as our California Environmental Quality Act, what's known as CEQA, and hazardous materials, hazmat. So those, we have not started that work. That's all pending our conceptual and schematic designs for each project. And so that will come to the board at a later date once we start that work. We'll be communicating with that. And our firms are also SEA Environmental and Grissetti Environmental. And then the same thing is for our geotechnical services with Nino and Moore. So this is pending direction of the design for the middle school, and that's going to be happening in the first quarter of 2024. Once that is approved here at the school board, then we will get started with our work in Nino and Moore and be able to give you additional information of the work that's going to be progressing. And currently we're in our lease back general contractor selection process. So we started that, was board approved to start that process on August 10th. We received pre-qualifications, and we posted that on our website so all the firms can be aware of that. And so we're gonna receive proposals on Monday, and we will be continuing on September 28th with interviews, and then with the goal and intent of bringing that back to the November board meeting for approval. And then also work that's ongoing is our work with Hancock Park and DeLong. And so they presented at our CBOC as well as our previous board meeting of how they're working to gather documents with all information needed so we can apply for state funding. So that work is continuing. And tonight, and I'm gonna pass it here to Brett, who's here with AECom, and he'll introduce his team as well, our Into Action, who's gonna be our communication consultant.
Thanks for having me. Brett Mitchell, principal in charge with AECom, and real quick, you could introduce yourselves.
Bryson Gisman, AECom, project engineer. I work with Cindy.
Social Shansky, construction manager. I'm with AECom for 20 some years, working at SFUSD currently, and working projects there. I'm going to be working on this project as well.
Yeah. And I'm proud to introduce, we've done some great work in terms of community engagement with Into Action in San Francisco Unified, and we're looking forward to continuing that work with you here. And so I'm just going to allow Abraham to have his team stand up and introduce himself. Where are you?
We are Latin versus individuals, both nonprofit and profit, delivering services to free program areas, developing place action. We've worked with San Francisco Unified School District, San Francisco, SFMLAC, and San Francisco, as well as many others. We are engaged from strategy and scope to how to body ground defense. Our deep commitment to transparency and consistent make us well positioned to support no values no values. I'm a product of SFUSD, providing public outreach and engagement services for students, families, and employees. We will work with No Valley School District leadership on an outreach plan for families, builds trust, and establishes a strong foundation for teamwork and decision making. As part of this work, we will help the district achieve the following overall outcomes. Number one, create a more informed public students. Number two, nurture positive and positive oversight committee, school sites, and stakeholders. And number three, establish frameworks for current updates, gathering input, and informing constituents for modernization projects, projects.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And then the last bullet is, I just wanted to mention that in terms of project management information system, our work with Kahua and TD Thornton. So, you know, they're very busy beginning to set up what we call a data warehouse and putting a lot of data into the system so that we can start doing some comprehensive dashboarding. And you'll have real-time information at your fingertips at any minute. So they're busy in that process now, just starting to gather data.
Thank you. Next slide. And right here is our board planning and approval process that we will also bring back to the board every update. And so just to go over our key elements that we're working towards is next, going over today our site validation for the Mill Valley Middle School with the hopes that next month our planning is to be able to choose a site for the middle school. And then in February 2024, jumping ahead a little bit, is our goal is to then be able to bring forward to the board our final design, conceptual design and cost to then be approved and move forward with building out the middle school and drawings. And so this is just an overall look at what we have coming up for each board meeting and what's happening.
Okay, thank you. So now is an opportunity for board members to ask questions, provide comments. Trustee Yu.
So we own the skate park, right? The land. How big is that land?
I don't have the exact square footage of the land, but it's a piece of land that we wanted to maintain some flexibility around because it could help with interim housing, as you're going to see also in the next board item is the possibility of some, if we needed to relocate where the middle school was. So we just wanted to make sure we had some flexibility around that land.
And if I look at the time schedule, there was your planning stage is starts well before May. So does that mean we could there is sufficient time if we choose to put temporary housing there, is there enough time for us to move? If we make up our mind and make board discussion in 2024? How does that work with your time?
Are you asked, just so I can,
I'm looking at page, the first present updated Measure G master schedule. You have temporary housing and pre-construction and design services phase starting in February, but we are being asked to renew or not renew the skate park in May, right? The lease goes to 2024 May, right? Does that work with the timeline?
Please. Livia.
yes, so we're being, asked to move it to October. A year from now, it would be October. What we're, committed to the city is to let them know what our plans are with the middle school by May 2024. To be able to let them know if there's no change or we have some change, in terms of affecting the skate park based off our planning for the middle school. But that's where
This schedule works.
yes,
Okay.
this fits within our timeline.
Thank you. Any other questions? Trustee Nagatani?
When are we going to start advertising the community engagement meeting on the 27th? Because I know of the date and I feel like I've maybe seen it in the communications, but I don't know that I've seen it. Has it gone out to all of our parents? Yeah, sorry.
Superintendent Kaufman, thank you.
It will go out in today's family newsletter, and then it will go out through the Mill Valley Connect to their 17,000 recipients. So that will go tomorrow.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for that question. Any other questions of board members? Okay, seeing no questions, thank you for that comprehensive presentation. Oh, we have Trustee Yu who's had a question pop up. Yes, Trustee Yu.
Connect is just for City of Mill Valley residents. What are you doing about unincorporated Mill Valley, like Strawberry, Penn Valley, Almonte?
Superintendent Kaufman?
That is a good question, and I will need to confer with our community engagement specialist because I do not know how they're reaching everyone, but they are.
Would our community engagement specialists like to respond to that question at this time? Or would you like to get back to us on that? So Abraham, why don't you come on up and take the mic so that our public can also hear you? Thank you.
For full transparency to the public, we as N2 Action have met individually with each member of the Board of Trustees to touch base on this topic, that being the topic of conducting outreach to the broader public, not just the parents, and also how can we do the best of our ability to reach out to the parents themselves as well. So we have a menu of options at our disposal at which we will work together as a team, brainstorm, and then come back to the public. But I just wanted to introduce that we've had these conversations as part of our onboarding, and we will have more soon.
Thank you. So you did hear we are unique in that we do have a county and city combination and we'll need to reach both parties. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from the board at this time for any of our presenters? Thank you very much for that comprehensive presentation update, Measure G. And now we go to Mill Valley Middle School interim housing and site validation presentation. And we will have a presentation and we do have some public comment after this.
Thank you. I'm going to hand it off to Brett Mitchell with AECOM, who will introduce our architectural team and to go over our presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, first of all, just allow the Lion AUKUS team to introduce themselves, starting with Laura.
Laura Noss, principal at Lion AUKUS.
Mark Jewell, project manager, architect. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. This is just to sort of remind you of where we are in the process. You've seen this before, and we plan in September, October to really bring forth to you some site selection information. And we'll be engaging you in some site selection ideas later in our presentation. Next slide. The overview here really is that in our presentation, we want you to we want to help you determine the suitability for a new middle school. In terms of the site, we also want to talk to you a little bit about some interim housing options and how you can consider decisions on how to do interim housing, and then really help you with some pros and cons for each of that decision for your decision-making purposes. Next slide. I won't read the slide to you. There's a lot of language, but just so you know, remember I talked a long time ago about the information funnel and how we come about recommendations. And so at the top, you can see a lot of information and activity gathering that we're going to do. That'll go into what I call the funnel for consideration. We'll make considerations. And then from that, we'll come out with some recommendations, and you'll hear some of that tonight. Okay, but just know that really this is the first meeting of many. We have a lot of information that we'll be disseminating over the next several months and helping you with make decisions. And with that, I know you really want to hear from our architectural team, and I'll turn it over to Laura to give you some of the information.
Thanks, Brett. Thank you all. We wanted to start first by reiterating what Brett said, and that is that we are at the beginning of a process. And there are so many lenses through which we can look at the issues at Mill Valley Middle School and where it should land. Your facilities master plan, of course, indicates a replacement in the existing location. However, we were asked to look at the viability of all the sites within the district just to determine if they were even worthy of that deeper consideration. So this site shows the relative sizes of all of the sites in the district. I will tell you that Old Mill, Park, Strawberry Point are all about 5 acres, 5.5 acres or below. Tamalpais at 8.2, Edna McGuire at 9.1, and the Mill Valley Middle School at 10.3, plus the bump you get from the adjacent park of an additional 3+ acres. We first used a lens of the California Department of Education's Title V of the California Code of Regulations, which looks at site size. Site size, as you all know, right? If you're in San Francisco, the same site is not the same as in Mill Valley, but it is a first lens and a first filter through which we can look at the project. And for Mill Valley Middle School, depending on the enrollment, we ultimately agree on between 750 and 1,200. The Department of Education guidelines are 14 to 18 acres. So you can see that those 5 acre and below immediately through that lens come off of the table. The Department of Education also requires that if you are below 75% of that number, so 10 to 13.5 acres, you need to present to them a physical education plan that how you're going to deliver a comprehensive physical education program in a more dense solution. So that's where you start to see sites get multi-story, or in San Francisco Unified, maybe courts on the roof, right? Or courts on parking garages. We're not in that place. So next slide, please. So we did this first lens is through the one of size and the viability, and understanding the expectations not only of the community but of your existing condition to provide those comprehensive physical education programs. That really left Edna McGuire at the very low end of that range. One could consider it, and the Mill Valley Middle School site as the 2 most viable sites for the new middle school. Next slide. So we do have one test and fit, and I will emphasize test and fit, of Edna McGuire, and 3 options at the middle school site. These are not finished designs. They're just similar footprints for each of them to assess that early test and fit. Next, please.
in this particular scenario, if we were to move the middle school to Edna McGuire, again, the second most viable site from a size standpoint, we would have to relocate and find new homes for the Edna McGuire students. That means either disseminating them among those, the other elementary schools, or loading up one, maybe the largest one, with the majority of the Edna McGuire students. And additionally, the Tara Marin and district facility staff that is on that site. So phase one would be identifying what that looks like. Phase two then would show an expansion of the campus to meet those middle school objectives, specifically gymnasiums and things like that, and the larger population of the site. This site was designed and approved through the environmental process for 600. So there would likely be an environmental process to move that forward to a larger population. And then next, please. We would then have to go back into the middle school and remedy any issues in it that don't meet middle school objectives. Key among them might be reclaiming kindergarten classrooms for another use, right? Those are the kinds of things we'd be looking at to meet your educational specifications. So for each of the options, we've identified some high-level pros and cons. Obviously, the main pro, and the reason we looked at this in the first place, was the concern about the location of the existing middle school adjacent to the sewer treatment facility. Obviously, there's less of a need for any kind of interim housing, but there is that big need to relocate the students that are there, and that it's more or less adequate for site size and grounds. And obviously, the cons are the significant costs and disruption of relocating those students, potentially costly renovation of the existing facilities that were already funded as an elementary school by the community, and likely the longest implementation schedule because of the need to first move those elementary school students. Our second option is the existing middle school site. We're calling it the west option. And the west option does exactly what the middle school or what the facilities master plan had anticipated. And that was to build on the footprint of the existing middle school and ultimately have the multi-purpose gym space remain. And many of the other things remain as is. Again, looking at a more dense solution, one that included a two-story space. This one does require a pretty significant lift in interim housing because we're taking everything we're sitting in now and having to find a home for that on the site while it happens. Again, do these kind of things all the time, but it is a cost implication. Next, please. So the visibility and presence from Camino, Alto, and Sycamore, the possibility of preserving the existing gym, cafe, and those modular buildings, but the cons, again, the interim housing, some loss of parking during construction, and the skate park discussion we just had, potentially, and whether we decide in a future phase to replace the gym and modular building, it may include some temporary housing for that. And I tried to give these each a little name. We've seen west. This is corner. This puts the building a little closer to the corner, further away from the east end and the sea level implications there, but also some more prominence, if you will, on the corner. This option would also allow us to replace the gym cafe in full, should funds allow, without without removing the existing. So again, each of these options has some trade-offs in terms of interim housing, but certainly are all viable. Again, visibility and presence, the opportunity to defer the gym replacement, but again, costly interim housing and the increased cost to replace the entire campus versus maintaining the gymnasium. And our final option is the east option. And that particular option we explored for, I would say, one reason only, and that was because it didn't align with your facilities master plan. And that was the ability to build it in place without disrupting this existing building. And the interim cost, housing costs that could save in the long term. Now, of course, it would require interim solutions for the multipurpose building and those adjacent portable buildings. But with some creativity, we think the portables might be able to be absorbed in this building. And it would really be the interim solutions for food service and that multipurpose building. Again, depending on what the school was willing to live with or the district was willing to live with, those could be mitigated. So the interim housing cost comes down, certainly more open space at Camino Alto and Sycamore, but it is closer to the sewer plant, which we were moving away from, and we would need the interim food service program in one way, shape, or form. So there were additional considerations that we looked at. One is what we've heard is that the highest priority is the potential for sea level rise, just in relation to your existing conditions. Your current multipurpose building is set at a height, the finished floor is at a height above not only the flood maps, but the anticipated sea level rise. So we would be talking about bringing the whole campus up. The closer we are to the east, the more that happens. Certainly the sewer plant smells was something we've heard about. There are conditions with mechanical systems where it's now called a smoke control, right? Where you shut down the outside air that goes through your air conditioning system. We could apply that here. That doesn't help recess, but it certainly helps by keeping kids inside. And then certainly the quality of the soils. Again, we have a soils report from 2018. We'll be getting new information on that, but believe those to be mitigatable with appropriate foundations for the building. But all come at somewhat of a cost. So our recommendations today, and we're not asking for action today, but as you consider this between now and the next meeting, is to eliminate the Edna McGuire option because of the cost and disruption and extended time period of implementation, and the need to relocate Terra Marin, the district facilities, and all that goes with that, and to consider and continue with the conceptual options on the Mill Valley Middle School site, answering any questions, digging any deeper into things that are needed in order to have a quality discussion on that. Dive right into interim housing. So the interim housing is a tricky part of this in that depending on how the design progresses, interim housing will be required or will be required in limited fashions throughout. So we've talked about developing interim middle school 6-8 at the temporary housing at Mill Valley Middle School. That's the highest cost option. It builds almost a whole new school in portables of some kind. And those portables also have to be done above sea level rise into Division of State Architects standards. The other is to expand existing elementary schools or taking in surplus capacity at those elementary schools to accommodate interim housing, either at the 6th grade level only, limiting somewhat what we build as interim housing for 7th and 8th, or expanding those existing elementary schools to TK8 for the duration of construction. And at the risk of nerding out, you're going to see some tables in just a few minutes, but the maximum projected enrollment currently overlaps the district's peak enrollment in the facilities master plan. So while there could be a potential lack of surplus space in there, you're behind those projections today, and we'll demonstrate that in just a moment. So but if we do have to build something new, is it something that could benefit the elementary school in the long run, like transitional kindergarten or some other higher STEM best use? And the other questions we ask is, some of your enrichment classrooms, could those temporarily be taken over to limit the amount of interim housing? But there certainly are educational program impacts, and of course your educators can speak more to that, but the block schedule currently at the middle school, how that would align, the high school readiness that your matriculation offers, the PE and athletics we've talked about, core facilities, and certainly educational programs that are using those surplus spaces would be impacted. And there's teacher credentialing and all sorts of things that are outside of my skill set that are impactful here, I think. So again, at the risk of doing things Mark and I like to do, but are kind of nerdy, this is your facilities master plan information at the top here. Down below is what your actual enrollment has been trending. So your actual enrollment is trending significantly below the projections for the facilities master plan. Not a surprise to any of you, but what it does is open up our mind to that concept of interim housing taking existing surplus space within the district. Again, you can dig into that a little deeper. Next, please. I think it's also important to identify that surplus capacity could be anywhere between 124 and 467 using the facilities master plan. And again, those numbers only get larger as we look at your enrollment being behind by 300 or more students. So we're getting very close to having seats for the entire middle school already in the district. And next, please. If you were to eliminate those enrichment classrooms, again, not everyone's favorite option, we start to generate even more capacity, 480 to 540 students of capacity. If there was some time period, we could live without some of those enrichment classrooms. So that was a lot, but do you want to talk about next steps?
Well, we talked about the community engagement. We'll be working on the community engagement with Interaction. You heard from them. We'll have this first of the outreach meetings on the 27th. And then I think the selection we're asking for the not pursuing Edna McGuire will come at the next board meeting in October.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now I do believe we have public comment. So we're going to ask if we have any other public comment besides the one before me. All right, so if Aaron Frazier, would you feel free to come on up, and I'm sure they'll share the mic with you. We're all family here.
It's gonna be quick.
Okay, and you,
I'm
3
Aaron
minutes.
Frazier.
Yes.
Been up here a lot.
Yes, you are.
I know you're
MBTA.
not voting tonight, but I just wanted to speak out in support of the recommendation made at the end of the report to eliminate Edna as an option for the location of the future middle school for the reasons stated in the report that was clearly very thoroughly and well prepared. Beyond what's listed as disruption to Edna McGuire students, Edna's elementary school community would be completely dismantled if it were selected as the new site of the middle school, and students and teachers and all of the families that are so bonded at Edna would be fractured and sent to the other sites. And the strong bonds, working relationships that have been built for years and years would be broken. I know you know this, but I like to come up and say the thing, as I do. So I'm not going to go further, but I'm in support of the recommendation. I also wanted to thank you for planning the community and staff input sessions on the 27th. I'm hopeful there'll be a system in place for that community input to find its way to you if you're not able to attend the meetings. I'm very confident that Elizabeth has a plan. And I want to thank you in advance for reading the notes from all those meetings, which I'm sure will be lengthy. So thank you.
Thank you, Erin, very much for your cogent and thoughtful comments. And now, seeing no more comments, let's go ahead and open up for board questions. And there's no potential action at this time, but questions or comments. Trustee, you?
I just want to know, if we are going to continue K through 8 at elementary side, how much, that will change our middle school program. Right now we have a real middle school program where, kids move from class to class. They can take different classes. All the middle school teachers are together in the same building. How would that impact our middle school education?
I think Superintendent Kaufman can respond to this. Thank you.
The short answer is significantly. And then of course it depends on which iterations that we consider. And I think the trade-off is what are the cost savings for various versions of that compared to what is the educational impact and what's our overall capacity to fund a middle school remodel while keeping the middle school students together. So it will require more discussion, more analysis, more engagement of staff. But given the size of our district and the size of our middle school, just the credentialing and staffing of the master schedule alone would be significant impact for our students.
Thank you, Superintendent Kaufman. Yes, Trustee Katz.
Don't push the mic away just yet. On a related note, even if we were to just explore 6th grades, do we even have the staff and capacity in place to be able to keep just 1 grade at the elementary school sites and figuring out 7th and 8th separately? But do we even have the logistics in place where we could even operationally make that work from a student perspective?
Superintendent Kaufman.
So again, we may have enough multiple subject credentials to do that. The programmatic impact in terms of classes like core, which are built with dual credentials and, sections that provide direct instruction in specific content areas, we have to look at the cost benefit analysis of the time lost potentially for students in preparing for a high school that the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade model offers in self-contained block schedule. So, there won't be hard data on this. There isn't hard data that says a TK through 6 is better than a TK or 6 through 8, in many senses, other than, there was a reason we began to design places for young adolescents to come together. And for us as a district in particular, when we have 5 distinct elementary school communities and we bring the students together in 6th grade. 6th grade is very much a year of coming together and nurturing relationships, which is done by design in the middle school so that 7th and 8th grade can be preparing kids for more independence and then moving to high school. It would be a significant impact. And I think it really becomes a question, a financial question. And I would have to address Laura and Mark to see if each of our elementary schools had the full capacity to retain 6th grade students. And when we address that question, one of the considerations is that we're using, in order to execute multi-tiered systems of support, we need multiple spaces on each campus to provide students the just-in-time learning that they need at their level. So leaving 6th grade on the campuses would very likely impact our ability to grow and expand multi-tiered systems of support.
Yes, Trustee Nakatani.
I have a few, so I'm going to keep asking before I'm done, but
Please,
on,
please do. And then we'll see who can answer it for you.
I'm gonna go off of your note with sixth grade, and I was looking at the capacity, maps and the charts for our various schools. And, I figured I didn't want to analyze it to death. I was just asking, are there two school sites where we could split sixth grade up into two different schools? You know, to house sixth grade at TAM and Edna. I'm just throwing those two schools out there because they're the largest in my brain. So I don't know if that is a slightly more feasible, you know, sixth grade option. So I don't know if, I think there's roughly, I'm gonna guess 250 sixth graders. It's kind of just a guess based on about 750 kids.
Well, I saw that Laura had her hand up, so let
yeah,
me.
so I'm just wondering capacity wise, if there's room in either of those schools to, you know, house 130 kids each or something.
Okay, Laura.
With
Thank you.
what Dr. Kaufman said, notwithstanding on the expansion of program, there should be, but it might take some reclaiming of some of the current enrichment spaces.
When you say that, you mean like our music room?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, in order to make that happen. We could
give me
do
the
a
puppies
deeper
for
dive. We could do a deeper dive if there were two that we wanted to identify for doing that exploration, but there is significant capacity at those sites because of the under or the low projected enrollment. It's just which two sites and how deep we dive into the enrichment programs.
Okay.
Thank you, Laura.
Then I can go on.
Yes,
Sorry.
please. Second question.
I think, to Yunhee's question about TK through 8, having, you know, two children who've recently graduated from middle school, I can't imagine a TK through 8 system that are elementary. So, but it had to be explored, right? These are questions that have to be asked. And then for options 2 and 3, is that just sort of like one keeps the gym and one doesn't? Is there a interim housing cost difference between those two?
I believe Laura has the answer. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. I think that the big difference between those two was whether we maintained the gym multi-purpose room or not, and wanted to put those both in front of you. But there wouldn't be a market difference in the interim housing costs
Right, okay.
between those two.
Okay, so that could come down to what could we afford?
Trustee Nakatani, do you have any further questions?
That just out of curiosity, the Department of Ed, it was 14 to 18 acres suggested. And if you're below what percentage, you're supposed to submit a plan?
75%.
Oh, okay, got it. That's it for now.
Thank you. Trustee Yu.
When I looked at the plan for the middle school construction preliminary budget, I'm sure there was interim housing construction cost. Anything that you are evaluating here, how does that compare to what we initially thought would cost?
Okay, please take it away. Thank you.
I don't know which option it is that mirrors the initial projections of the master plan and follows that budget. It was option 1.
Option 1 is Edna McGuire. Option 2 and 3.
2 and 3. 2 and 3 are the same.
So it's not that much, you know, it says that, you know, having to build interim housing is going to add to the construction cost, if I remember reading it, but it's not more than what we initially thought we would spend.
Correct.
Yeah. Can I express my personal view on this? You know, I think we are here for the children, and I personally think that anything that may compromise our kids' middle school education is not something, you know, that is just, we could just put dollar value on it, especially since if it's not going to meaningfully increase, you know, the total construction budget we included initially.
Thank you, Trustee Yu. Trustee Katz.
To add to his comments, I think unless we were going to philosophically and programmatically change the direction of the district long term, then, you know, our ultimate goal is be good stewards of the community's tax dollars and the funds that are being allocated towards this, while being as
least disruptive as possible to their education and making sure that we hold them in place as best as we possibly can. So it does feel like pulling them out of bed, a cohort of students out of bed for a short period of time during the duration of construction would potentially be, have negative impact and be disruptive to the students, the teachers, and the district as a whole. So I would be inclined to steer away from that as well.
Thank you. I do have a question. So I just want a point of clarity for my mind. Option 2, west. No, wait. Option 4, east. And I think option 3, corner. Help me refresh my memory. Does one or both provide the students to stay in this facility while we're building another? They both do. Please, could you clarify? Thank you, Laura.
Option 4 east would allow us to build a likely 2-story single building interior corridor on the east side while this building remained operational. It would, though, provide or require that we provide some sort of interim solution for the multipurpose and food service component of that. We've seen anything from food trucks to delivery and outdoor physical education. That's why we put that one forward. A future phase might add a new multipurpose to replace the old one, and maybe it's bigger, maybe it's more current, and that again would take that out of commission.
Thank you, because what I am hearing is the interest, and I share it, in keeping our students as least impacted as possible. So for me, that option at first blush feels most interesting. Is there any long-term structural negativity? I'm not, because this is not my wheelhouse, that one would consider from your professional vantage point? I mean, it's closer to the sewer plant, but I'm not sure. I'm struggling to understand if that's really a negative in respect to the benefits to our students' continuation of their programming. So maybe you could help me process that.
From our perspective, there is not a significant impact. Most of that can be mitigated. Sea level rise, flood zones, certainly soils in the structural system of the building.
Thank you. And lastly, I just wanted to highlight one last question. Thank you, Trustee Abdoli. On page, page number, but bottom line, is it true that we're talking about, with your recommendations, the possibility, if desired, that you would like us to consider eliminating options at this time in advance of the October meeting? Can you, okay, I'm reading that and I'm wondering what that means. Who would like to speak to that, please? Okay,
Part
Julio.
of our recommendation for this meeting is we would like to put more focus on the middle school, and Laura, you can expand on that in terms of what we're thinking about for Edna.
Yes, certainly we can do a deeper dive into the options for this site between now and next week, bring you back some more detailed information if you have questions. But if we could eliminate the Edna option today, it would allow us to focus and come back with responses to those. But if not, we don't expect action on the final decisions until October.
Thank you. And Trustee Abdoli.
For what it's worth, I think that's fine, eliminating the Edna option. So I agree with Trustee Cernsich Hodge that the sewer plant should not be in the calculation. I mean, we've had CBOC members who've gone and checked it out, and so I really want to focus on the education and the experience. Also not my area, so this is the best analogy I can come up with to ask you which option here. So you're remodeling your house, you try to live in it while you remodel it, everything takes longer and it never works as well. you just sack up and you move out and you cook on the weird stovetop thing and it just, you deal with it, but it's faster and what's happening in the house tends to be more productive because you're out of their way. Is there an analogy here with the options where you're able to be efficient, most efficient with your build where, we're being most efficient with the build and getting kids back into the finished product as quickly as possible when looking at these?
Certainly the interim housing, regardless of option, is never an ideal situation. And we would ask that you would be kind of judicious with what we replaced in kind from this building, because each building is cost, right? And they all, as I mentioned, have to meet the state architect's requirements and flood issue requirements and everything. So it is, conceptually very expensive interim campus for a year and a half or a couple of years. So that's why we brought the East option to you. You mentioned remodeling your house and getting out of their way. Leaving the students here has some real desire, right? They get to watch construction but are not quite as disrupted. But it really comes down to working with the district on what is the lowest requirement we can live with on the multi-purpose kitchen option so that we can spend the least amount on an interim solution for those. As you mentioned, we just live with it a little bit in order to really keep those interim housing costs, because I think at the end of the day, the goal would be to replace the entire campus, including the multi-purpose, which, becomes more precarious the more we spend upfront. Fair?
Please.
Yeah, and I don't want to restate the obvious, but interim housing is a bite out of the apple that we always have to take. Unfortunately, DSA does not recognize the term interim. We have to build permanent classrooms and move them off. So the more we have to build permanent classroom moves, it's less solution we have in terms of finances for the permanent solution. So we always like to favor less interim housing, and I think that option gives you the least amount. If you look at the options that give you the least amount of interim housing, it gives us more for the permanent solution.
Trustee Nakatani.
So I'm going to take an opposite view of option 4. We do have a responsibility to our current students and our upcoming students in the next few years. We also have a responsibility for generations of students to follow. We're hoping 2 or 3 at a minimum. And we haven't seen sea level rise maps, projections, or anything. So I think it's premature for any of us to guide ourselves mentally, even though we're not giving direction right now. I don't want the board to start to favor one direction or another without a lot more technical information. That long-term responsibility, I think, outweighs interim housing costs, frankly. So that's my view right now on the options we have. I'm fine with eliminating option 1 too, if that's that would help, I think.
Trustee, you?
I'm just looking at this map, and I'm not a good map reader by any means, but in this option 4, I just have a question. Can you build the building a little bit back towards the paved lot, like where the parking lot is, like in the back? Because this is all in the front, but is there any reason why you wouldn't move that further back?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Laura.
In fairness, this isn't designed, right?
Mm.
We have a long way to go design. We wanted to see if it was even viable, but working with the community, all the stakeholder meetings that Julio mentioned earlier, will arrive at a solution. What we would be doing is trying to limit our footprint outside of this existing building in that scenario.
Yes, trustee. Okay, Trustee Abdulli.
Kind of a 2-part question. In the ideal world, you would have final sign off from us on which interim housing option we want. Like, what would be the sign off to avoid any delay?
Trustee, Superintendent Kaufman.
We're aiming for October 12th.
Okay, so
I think we could make it till November, but we really, we would ideally like to have that because as you know, there's always delays and everything.
So to that
Thank
end,
you.
I would suggest, I mean, like, I actually strongly disagree. I think we have finite resources to spend freely on interim housing seems really, not the best use of resources when we have finite resources and we're already so like barely able to rebuild versus remodel. So I want to make sure, I personally, don't think that that would be the best approach. So I'd rather make sure that we have the time. Like, when will we have the time to have this discussion to make sure?
Superintendent Kaufman?
So a couple of thoughts on that. One thing is we haven't reached out really to this, now correct me if I'm wrong, but the city already has plans for sea level mitigation flood zone. So they have some engineering information, at least in general, that we can access. We have not spent the resources of this time engaging with them until we have the guidance on sort of, okay, is it the middle school that we're going to engage on? And then we'll connect with Andrew and Todd and team. And I think at that point, we would be bringing you some preliminary information. I do think we still have to contract and obtain some of that information depending on the viability of the information we see from the city. But the city has mentioned that they have a $20 million mitigation plan in place, and I mean, again, in very informal conversations, so I don't want to quote anyone, but that, that was not an area of significant concern for them as they look at the development of their own facility. So I think we could potentially, we could schedule a special. I think what these individuals need from us is really not, they need to know whether we're going to pick the middle school or not, and what our commitment is to interim housing on October. Are we going to do a 6th through 8th grade program and cover all the middle school students? And if we have a straw poll and provide guidance on that tonight, that's even better. But then it won't really be till December, January where we're costing out options and saying, this is the, do you want it in location A or location B? Is it going to look like this or that? So we have some time. We just need you to give us the guidance on where are the middle school kids going to be housed and how many of them are we housing? And then are we doing a middle school at this current site or at Edna?
So, and just to be clear, our choices are Edna removing Edna kids, or middle school and just creating housing in some variation at the middle school facility. Those are really our only, like,
if we want to preserve the integrity of the 6th through 8th grade program, yes.
So I think let's do some straw polling perhaps. And if there is any specific way to do this, please interject, but I'm just, perhaps we can show of hands if we believe that we want to, we personally would eliminate the Edna McGuire option. Okay, so you have some direction there. That's unanimous. So that's helpful. Is there anything else, Superintendent Kaufman, that we could give you straw poll information to move this along?
Without putting you all on the spot. And so we can, we do circles in this district, so you can pass and you don't need to answer. But if you did have some sort of collective guidance on whether or not you wanted to maintain the 6th through 8th program as a 6th through 8th program, that would relieve us of the burden of trying to figure out what to do with 6th graders and engaging staff in those conversations, because we would need to engage student, staff, parents in what we would do for 6th grade in another area, or if we're going to do something with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So guidance on maintaining the program would be
So can we do a straw poll? Is who would,
or
Trustee Abdulli?
I was just going to say I would be comfortable deferring because I love my elementary, and if that's the decision you come up with, that's the best option. I'd like, my vote would be, I'd be open to your and the teacher's direction. Like, if the teachers all felt like keeping 6th grade separate was the best choice. Like, I don't want to, my vote is, I think the educators should be making the call as to whether or not this deviation for a year or two makes sense. Like,
I'd like to add that I feel that I think if we move, if I'm understanding, if we make that a choice, then the possibility exists that the interim housing would only perhaps be 7 and 8, and the 6 would go for a couple of years. Bridge with, okay. I wonder if it would be helpful though to perhaps have some board individual passing or just giving some feedback on this. Okay, so Trustee Katz, would you like to begin? So either you feel strongly about the 6, 7, 8 program, or you don't.
I feel strongly about having consistency across the course of the construction into whatever exists thereafter. So unless we were actually exploring revising our entire approach to middle school and keeping those 6th graders in place over the long term, then I would opt for maintaining consistency for our programs as they stand.
Could you provide some clarity whether there is this programmatic shift that would provide us some understanding of,
We are not
where to go next?
currently planning any programmatic shift. I think our model is a 6th through 8th model. We haven't engaged in conversations, and I don't think absent this remodeling project that we would have those conversations. As I mentioned earlier, the evidence base isn't compelling one way or the other for 6th through 8 versus TK through 6. And I know from my previous district where we had to look at school closures and reconfigurations, if you poll parents, they will want their 6th graders to remain on the elementary campus. If you poll 6th graders, they will want to go to middle school. If you poll 6th grade, 5th grade teachers or elementary principals, most of them want the kids to go to middle school too. I think there's a reason we put that very young adolescent group together. And there is some sort of synergy that occurs in them helping each other mature and grow. But again, I won't be able to give you evidence, and I think that's the question is if we start entertaining that, it becomes disruptive on top of the other work we're doing. So, I guess I'll be quiet now.
I will just say, I feel like we've got a lot to navigate over the coming years, and I think exploring and changing programming and where we have our students in the long term is probably not a project that you anticipated adding to your plate right now.
Thank you.
So Ellie, whatever you.
Trustee, you?
Yeah, I would also prefer consistency. I don't think we have any real information to make concrete decision at this point. So, but my preference will be consistency, and I would like to see everything priced out and see what's going to cost more and before we all make this decision. I was at the, we may or may not get the state funding, and we're kind of relying upon it. And I, from JLAC meeting this morning, I heard that the new ballot measure will not be, the new school bond measure will not be put on the ballot next year. So, that's another uncertainty. So I just want to see everything priced out and get the solid information before we make the decision.
Thank you. Trustee Nakatani?
I value the 6th through 8 experience at this middle school. So I would not want to see any disruption. However, if doing something like two 6th grades were a viable option, as in like we don't have to hire 6 new or 10, 12, 15, I don't know, however many new teachers we would need to hire. And of course, I don't also want to use a tremendous amount of district office time exploring this option. I feel it's a question that I'd like to ask. Regarding October meeting, which is only really a month away, and I feel like we need another meeting on options 2, 3, and 4 with a lot more technical information. Because if I am worried about just being presented with options in October and then being asked to make a decision is not going to provide us enough time to digest it and not, to have a discussion about it or turn it into a 6-hour board meeting.
Is that what I thought in October we would just say, we all agree it should be the middle school and that's it.
So let's,
Well,
Superintendent Kaufman, maybe she can answer that question. Oh, Julio, she's deferring to Julio.
Yes, so October, our objective is to come out with a site selection. So it would be, like I said, an example, we choose the middle school. We would then hopefully at that point have our general contractor work with our architectural team and AECOM with then be able to provide updates, and then the first quarter of 2024 bring forward to you a conceptual design with pricing in February, around that time frame, to be able to say, like, this is our conceptual design, this is the pricing, and then we would then start building out the drawings. And Laura, you can just add to that if there's anything to add.
That was our anticipation. If we could narrow it to the middle schools, we could maintain multiple options for a while here while we get through the programming and the community engagement process and bring that back with the cost implications of interim housing. So by narrowing it, I think we can explore more deeply the multiple options in the time run.
Then no, I mean, so
So-
that we do what we were gonna do in October by eliminating Edna.
Yeah, we helped it.
So we actually moved ahead?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanna make sure I caught up, so we're.
Right,
okay.
because
And we're ahead of time too. Look at that.
She just
because I-
keeps that.
I do want to say, because it does say selection of the new middle school site and interim housing option in a month from now. So I'm hearing you say that's not actually accurate. You don't want us to pick one site and one interim option from Edna in October, correct?
I was just gonna say, we're still reviewing sites within the site. That's
Correct.
that's
In October.
October.
So I think this should be review selection of the new middle school site and interim option housing.
So I think if we do site, like the site is the middle school, and then within those sites, there'll be options. But we're going to, the semantics are that we want you to pick the middle school. That's our recommendation. And then we want you to tell us to do probably 6 through 8. And then we want to, and from there, they'll know what kind of scenarios to cost out, research, bring back.
And I'll add my last 2 sentences that, yes, I agree that the 6 through 8 concept should be maintained. If in fact, though, there is some kind of outcry from other stakeholders, then I'm in line with Trustee Abdoli to listen to that. But it seems most consistent with, I'm consistent with everything else you heard today in terms of my views. Okay, great. Thank you, team.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So exciting. And now let us go to our next item, sufficiency of textbook and instructional materials. Superintendent Kaufman will present this item. No action is taken at this time.
So this is an annual resolution that the board adopts following a public hearing. In essence, we are asking the board to certify this evening that we have sufficient instructional materials for the core areas of instruction. So we would argue that we already have that, and it's been an ongoing priority for us to make sure our students have access to standards aligned and relevant curriculum materials. So we will ask that at the regular meeting get closed, we open the public hearing, we see if anybody wants to speak, and then we can close the public hearing, and then we'll have a resolution.
All right. So I'd like at this time to close the regular meeting at 8:13 p.m. And I'd like to open the public meeting hearing and ask for public comment at this time at 8:13 p.m. Do we have any public comment at this time, either on Zoom or otherwise? Hearing none, then I will reopen the regular meeting at 8:13 p.m. Thank you. And now, would you please present the resolution attached to the sufficiency of textbooks?
We're asking that the board consider approval of resolution 02-23-24, sufficiency of instructional materials for the 23-24 school year.
All right. May I have a motion to approve? Second? Natalie Katz, Superintendent Katz, Trustee Katz. Boy, let's see how things change so quickly.
Quick.
You don't want that, John? All right, here we go. Roll call.
President
Thank you.
Cernsa-Chaj.
Aye.
Trustee Abdoli. Trustee Yu. Trustee Katz. And I'm Trustee Nakatani. I'm an aye.
All right, resolution passes 5-0. Thank you, Superintendent Kaufman. And now we're going on to personnel. We have a resolution 04-23-24, certificated assignment authorization. Superintendent Kaufman will present this item and it is a roll call vote as well.
This is a local resolution for a local waiver for individuals to teach more than one credentialed area. In this case, we have English language arts and social science teachers who are seeking approval for being able to teach the middle school core. The resolution.
All right. So may I have a motion to approve this resolution? All right. Roll call vote, please.
President Cernsa-Chaj.
Aye.
Trustee Abdoli. Trustee Yu. Trustee Katz. I'm Trustee Nakatani. I'm an aye.
And it passes 5-0. Thank you. Superintendent Kaufman, resolution 05-23-24, certificated assignment authorization electives.
So this is a resolution for the same type of local authority to approve credentials or waive credentials. And in this case, we are asking for approval for two of our electives teachers who have, in essence, designed the courses, but don't necessarily have a credential that's specific to the courses, although they have the experience to teach the course.
So I'd like to move to approve. Do I have a second? Trustee
Second.
Yu. Roll call vote.
President Cernsa-Chaj.
Aye.
Trustee Abdoli. Aye. Trustee Yu. Aye. Trustee Katz. I'm Trustee Nakatani. I'm an aye.
It passes unanimously. Next, we are on updated declaration of need. Dr. Superintendent Kaufman.
So this is an additional candidate that we need to approve for a temporary or intern credential. You'd already approved 8. This is the 9th individual who we need to approve, and it's all related to our teacher shortage. So very fortunate to have individuals who are willing to work and go to school and get their credentials while they're learning how to teach. It's quite significant work.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve? Trustee Yu, I'll second. And let's go ahead. I guess this is not a roll call vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, that passes. Next, we have salary schedules for unrepresented staff, OT, specialists, and psychology.
Yes, so there is a group of individuals whose salaries, they're not represented by a bargaining unit, and their salaries needed alignment with the bargained agreement. So we are asking that those are adjusted. In some cases, there was a need to align for around step 5. So we've restructured a bit, but wanting to create parity with the bargained agreements and for the unrepresented and represented individuals.
Are there any questions? All right. May I move to approve?
So moved.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes. Thank you. Superintendent Kaufman, stipends for unrepresented administrative staff, extra duty.
There's one before that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Salary schedule for unrepresented administrative staff, doctorates. Thank you very much.
This is to approve a doctoral stipend for administrators on par with the certificated stipend that happens for the bargaining unit.
Okay, I'll move to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes. Now we'll go to stipends for unrepresented administrative staff, extra duty. Dr. Kaufman.
This is an approval of extra duty stipends for 2 principals in our district. It is one time only, and I'm not sure it will be an ongoing practice. However, there was an interest in recognizing these individuals for their contributions last spring.
Thank you. All right. May I have a motion to approve? Second? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? It passes. Thank you. That concludes personnel. Now we will move on to L, business and financial matters. And we'll ask Dr. Rollins, thank you, to walk us through the budget revision. Thank you, Dr. Rollins.
Great. So this next board agenda item is consideration of the approval of a budget revision. The board took action on August 10th to approve the unrepresented salary schedules. These were not included in the adopted budget, and so therefore there is a requirement for a budget revision within 45 days of the board's approval on August 10th. So we are asking for approval of the budget revision that is attached to the board agenda.
Do you have any board comment or questions? All right. Do I have a motion to approve this revision?
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously. Next, we go to unaudited actuals 22-23. Dr. Rollins, thank you.
Great, thank you. So this is to close out our prior fiscal year of the 2022-23 fiscal year. It's a reflection of our financial report. And so we do have a couple just super summaries to provide for you. Within the agenda packet, there is a requirement to submit these forms through what's called the standardized account code structure. These forms are outlined here in the table of contents, and we have this slide as well as the next slide, which includes all of the agenda items in the board packet. And we can go to the next one. And you'll see from our actual unaudited revenues, there are 4 primary buckets, and the majority of our revenues are from local funds. And you'll see that 88% of our unaudited actuals in terms of our revenues are locally funded. That makes up 12% of our state and federal funds. This is actually greater than what we would normally see because of the one-time funds still residual from COVID. Generally, our state and federal funds are less than 10%. So we continue to see the one-time funds because a lot of them have 3 to 5 year plans. And that's why you will see that we have additional restricted fund dollars from the state and federal resources. And then the next slide is our expenses in terms of our staffing. We know that staffing is the primary, what I would say, percentage of our budget, and it's very important for us to maintain that. Our actuals represent 82% of our total budget of expenses for certificated classified staff, as well as the associated benefits, which includes pensions, health and welfare costs, and statutory taxes. In addition to that, you can see about $9.4 million of our budget from last year represents our other operating costs. That's everything from utilities to insurance, special education services, and our other services that we provide through the County Office of Education, books and materials, and other curriculum. And so again, just to reiterate, it's $41 million towards our staff, and then about 9.4 million to other non-associated staff expenses. And then just what's ahead is that we will have our first interim report for you, as well as our independent audit report. So this is called the unaudited actuals because it has not been fully reviewed by our independent auditor. The independent auditor will provide a financial report, which is due to the state, county office, and the federal clearinghouse on December 15th. And so just a look ahead of our next financial reports that we'll provide to the board, as well as for our community stakeholders. So with that, we are asking for approval of the 2022-23 unaudited.
Thank you, Dr. Rollins. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, I'd like to move to approve the unaudited actuals. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Rollins.
Thank you.
And now let us go, Dr. Rollins, to Resolution 6/2324 GAN limit. Thank you. This will require a roll call vote.
Great, thank you. There is per education code 42132, the GAN limit. This is actually part of the unaudited actuals packet. And so if you'd like to see, it's on page 29 of 88 of your agenda packet for the unaudited actuals. There is a calculation that is required to calculate the GAN limit. If there is a positive value on the section D10, we are reporting an increase in the GAN limit, which represents what our district is showing in this calculation. And so we will report this as a positive. There is a resolution that is required. We will simply submit this to the County Office of Education. There is no longer a requirement to submit this to the state. I will make note that it is included in the resolution, but we received word from the county office after the agenda was posted that it is not required to submit to the state, but the county office will take the resolution for us. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and it is a roll call vote.
Are there any questions about the GAN limit at this time? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve this resolution 62324? I second it. All in favor? Sorry.
President Stearns at Hodge.
Aye.
Trustee Abdoli. Trustee Yu. Aye. Trustee Katz. Aye.
Thank you for
I'm
keeping
an
me
aye.
honest. Thank you. Trustee Nakatani. Very good. Thank you, Dr. Rollins, for your business and financial matters presentations. Excellent. And now we go on to board reports and future board items. And so, I'm sorry, am I skipping something?
It's just the title.
Sorry. Okay.
That one.
So I can take us to the next
Board
agenda
operations,
item.
consider approval of response to grand jury report, build more ADUs. Let's move on to that. Thank you very much.
Great. So this is, as I think everyone knows, there is a grand jury that's with the Marin County, and they provide reports based on issues that they are being evaluated as a community. And so with that, there is a review and a report that was published in June, and the district is required to provide responses to that, which require board action. And so there were 2 responses with that. And just to clarify, the ADUs are accessory dwelling units. And so there is a full report that was linked to this, as well as the responses. These responses are due to the Marin County Office of Education and the County of Marin on September 15th. So we are asking for approval this evening so we can submit these in a timely fashion.
Do we have any board questions or comments? I did want to say thank you. I read the information and noted that because, and correct me if I'm wrong, because we are a public institution, this really doesn't fall directly within our purview. Okay.
Correct.
So I just wanted to share that. And with that, I'd like to move to approve. Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passes. Thank you. And now we'll go to Facilities Committee Board Rep. Dr. Kaufman will present this item. We are looking for a board appointment of 1 trustee who is needed for the Facilities Committee. Thank you, Superintendent Kaufman.
Yes, so we
Did you say you wanted to fill in?
don't everybody fight.
Hold on, hold on.
So
Superintendent Kaufman has the floor.
In the short term, we will need some representatives for more or less an ad hoc committee. Largely immediately, someone to participate on the interviews for the contractors. Moving forward, I think we will have a larger facilities committee where, we'll create a standing committee and engage multiple stakeholders. So I think there will be opportunities for expanded board participation in the future. I think our urgent need is between now and probably, realistically, we need support with the interviewing, and secondarily, I think for the course of this year, we really want to have all trustees engaged in the conversation so that you're all informed, and so we will bring the information to you. In the 24-25 school year, I think it will be more of an update and reporting with the board board representatives, more board representatives on the committee. So we need an appointment.
Thank you.
or maybe
Okay.
volunteers.
Do we have any first questions regarding this commitment?
My
Question,
Sharon going.
Trustee Katz is asking if Trustee Nakatani's offering up.
Yes, I'm happy to do it. And my question was.
Person? Yeah.
My question was, what day is the contract interview? Is it the 28th?
September 28th.
What time?
We can let you know.
All day.
All day.
Okay.
So I'd like to move to appoint Trustee Nakatani as our representative. Well, how do you appoint?
It just says, yeah, it's ad hoc. It's just, it's not a formal.
Oh, so board appointment?
Volunteer.
I guess we board appointed. Our process was sound. Thank you. We have Trustee Nakatani.
Tribute is here.
Moving right along. Thank you, Trustee Nakatani, for your undying service. We do appreciate you. Truly, truly. All right. And now I think we can go to board reports and future board items. So first off, do we have any future board items? Note that we need approval of CBOC bylaws, appointment of CBOC alternative, first review of BPAR administrating medication. That in other words, we have other future board items. I'm sorry. But do we have any additional? Trustee Abdulli?
Two items. The first one I don't think is really an action item, more of a, I heard from our after school program that they were trying to schedule next year staffing for breaks and such and even start of school. And it's challenging because our calendar for next year isn't available. Recognize the county's involvement, but to the extent our calendars impact after school programming, if we can get our calendars done like at least a year in advance, that'd be super awesome. So,
Okay.
so do you want me to clarify?
That's not an agenda
It's on the
item.
agenda. It's just more of a board item, future board item. I don't know that it is.
Will
I
that be
know that we're coming up with.
Superintendent Kaufman, can you clarify?
I don't think she has. to
As
take
an
any
answer?
action. It's kind of saying like, to the extent we can in future, that'd be awesome. to
Okay.
approve it.
It's on our radar. There's a process for approving it, so we will be connecting with MBTA and CSEA. We were sort of waiting to find out what TAM had approved for. They've got 24, 25, I think, but not 25, 26, and we like to do 2 years at a time. So, but yes, it's on our radar. It's on our radar.
So it is a future board item.
And
So,
the second, again, not sure it's totally a future board item, but it's a percolating issue, which is that Strawberry Point is the only one that is on county and not really having protected walkways. So we literally have children just walking in the street, and we've worked with the Safe Routes to School, and the county's taken away now 2 of our crossing guards. So we literally have now soon to be 4-year-olds and up just walking in the middle of the street, crossing Tiburon Boulevard without any support. And, you know, parents have gone through Safe Routes, they tried to promote proposed solutions that the county has just not done. And I would like this board to consider, since we support walking and biking to school, and since Safe Routes says that majority of our Strawberry Point students live within walking distance, that we consider some kind of formal request to the county that they address the safety issues around Strawberry Point School.
so Superintendent Kaufman, could you evaluate if that rises to the level of a board agenda item, or would you address that in,
Yeah, no,
please? Yes.
I think that we have considered and contemplated this because it also happened on at Park as well. You know, there's a priority for crossing guards based on some ranking and rating that the county does, the city does. We discussed preliminarily seeing how the start of the year went, and then potentially coming to the board to ask about funding for funding the difference for the crossing guards. Of course, we can try to approach the county as well, but maybe in the short term, we may want to consider a board item to fund, replace the crossing guards, the two positions that were out, so I could bring that for board consideration and
I
discussion.
was not, I was not looking for the county to spend funds, to be honest. I think that, I'm sorry, the city to,
Us,
not
the school district. It's
It's
okay.
okay.
It's not- We understand
Yes,
exactly what.
thank you. I don't think this is a district role.
Okay.
I think this is the, county or in Park's case, the city. These are our children and they're SUVs and we've seen the, headlines and we know what happens. And so I think it's more us taking a position that we expect them to, assist with the safety of their own people.
So we can bring a letter forward for board approval at the next meeting.
If my fellow board members.
So what we've done in the past is that we do, approve agenda items. We have a structure in our handbook for this. But we also look for guidance from you if this is a BC that provides more general information. And I also want to get some sense from Trustee Abdoli about how she feels about, what do you want next?
Particular, like, I'd like to make sure everybody's in agreement. And if they are, it might not even be an action item. It might just be I just, wouldn't want to go and say like, Dr. Kaufman, let's drop this on our own.
So
But
may
if
I,
everybody's in agreement, maybe I can work with Dr. Kaufman to just get it done, but maybe I'll solicit feedback as well. That's fine with me. Fine with me.
fine with me.
Thank you.
Got it. And then what I'll probably do is have the board president sign it on behalf of the board.
Perfect.
Okay. And she's great with BC, so we can be informed
Thank you.
along the
Appreciate
way.
it.
We're all good with that? Excellent. Okay. So any other future board items? All right. Seeing none, thank you, Trustee Abdoli. That was really helpful for me because I am not aware of these things. So yeah, I appreciate this opportunity. Very good. So now we're on to board reports and who would like to begin? If not, I'm happy to start. I want to share that I probably have the least to say because I was out of the area with family for 2 weeks. So I'm really looking forward to hearing about all the other activities that my fellow board members were so lucky to participate in with our students and staff. I do want to say that I found the Into Action presentation and the intake was very informative. They were really good listeners. So I'm hopeful that this will be the kind of two-way communication and robust stakeholder input that I feel we all really want to see. Also, we were very sad to not have Trustee Abdoli at the governance meeting. We understood and we hope we did good work and we expect them to get your input. But I found it to be very well organized and informative and I'm really hopeful that we'll have a series of documents that is going to guide our work with Superintendent Kaufman. And lastly, I just want to share that I am going to jump into looking at the Mill Valley Rotary Club and I just want to explore if they are a resource for us. So I'm going to a meeting on Tuesday. I've been invited and I'll share out. That's the only reason why I'd be interested is I don't know. I know they have a lot of impact in other communities, particularly San Rafael, but I'll report back. And then looking forward to the 20th, where I am going to be engaging in a Masters in Governance workshop online with fellow board members. And I'm very hopeful that that will help me in my further growth as your current board president and fellow board member. That's it.
I actually thought we would have a very long meeting and I did not prepare anything because I didn't think we were going to have time for board reports. So fortunately, it's at the beginning of the school year and I don't really have anything to report besides I was going to say we're going to Masters in Governance because I think it's the 6, 8-part, 10-part, 20-part, a lot part to better ourselves in our governance team. So that's it.
Thank you.
All I have is that back to school night was awesome. Really just great energy. It was really nice to be back in classrooms and writing notes for your kid and seeing the desk and lots of great energy. And the teachers had really put together phenomenal presentations and it was just great. It's really, it felt like going home in a way. So it was really nice.
Oh, wonderful. Trustee
Um,
Yu.
Yeah, I went back to school night at Ten Valley. That was amazing presentation and everything, even though my son's handwriting was illegible.
Don't throw him under the bus.
He's not going to hear this.
He hates writing. So, one thing to report, I did attend JLAC meeting. Two things relevant to our district. One is the statewide bond measure for infrastructure that will be delayed for some reason. It wasn't given to us. They didn't explain why it was not going to happen, but that is no longer going to be put on ballot in March 2024. The second topic that was interesting was our amazing lunch service. We are not the only district who's unhappy with our lunch vendor. And a couple of two recommendations. We have a lobbyist for our Berrien County Board of Education, for the lobbyist to bring this up, with our politicians in Sacramento about providing more flexibility about lunch choice. And second issue was potentially our district collaborating with MCOE and other districts to come up with better solutions to the lunch program than what we have. And hopefully this goes somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Trustee Katz.
Wholeheartedly agree on the energy and excitement at the beginning of the school year and back to school night. And I am very, very excited about New Horizon at the middle school and tomorrow night's back to school night. So going to get a tour and get a better connected with the teachers and what the middle school experience is like, which I'm sure is chaos, and can't wait. Already underway with a lot of the liaison meetings, so connecting with the Tixi Village, together with UP, PTA council meetings in Kiddo, and then having some PTA meetings with Edna and Old Mill over the next couple of days. Just a couple of things that I wanted to point out from Kiddo. They did share that with Prop 28, I think we all saw that on the ballot, and really important to remember that, first of all, we have Kiddo because we don't get funding for our arts and music programs, and so it's really critical for that well-rounded balanced education for our kids. Prop 28, we were counting on, I think it's, and Elizabeth will keep me honest, $158,000 that hopefully we will be getting. That's what I typed, but somewhere around $150,000 that we were counting on for this year, that we do not know when we might get it. And so I think that community support in providing whatever people can to Kiddo to ensure that our kids have that as part of their education is really critical. I think sometimes people take it for granted that it should be there, and it's really because we have such an amazing community that is committed to that. And this year, more important because we don't have that in place. Additionally, that funding is only for new programs, not for existing. So so we need that continued support to keep Kiddo going, and very excited to have Justin Newman on board as the new executive director. Also really excited about the communications around fundraising and helping people to understand what the difference is between Kiddo and PTA and where all the dollars come from for the district. And PTA Council shared that I'm sure there'll be a lot more communication, but we saved the date. I think November 8th is the first district-wide DEI event, International Food and Culture. So just really excited about the things that our DEI committee is going to continue to do in the year ahead. And really looking forward to that.
Thank you, Trustee Katz. I also want to say that I did receive that. I think it was a text or Instagram, and I was, from Kiddo, and it was really great. It was a video, and it was really catchy, right? I think, and it just popped in my feed. So, thank you for reminding me of that. Wonderful. Okay, well, if that concludes our board reports, I'd like to adjourn our meeting. much earlier than anticipated. Thank you, team, and all of us for staying on task. And let's conclude this meeting at 8:43 p.m. Thank you and good night.